Welcome back to our Sugar Beach tank top crochet along. In today's video, we'll be starting to crochet our top, starting at the neckline and working rows to shape the V-neck. Let's get into it. Before we start, let's quickly touch on terminology and stitches used in this pattern. The following stitches on screen will be used throughout this pattern. In this crochet along, I will be using US terminology, so the slide on screen will tell you what the UK equivalent to the stitches if you're following along with UK terms at home. To begin, let's work our foundation chain. You can either follow along with the stitch counts in the hooked pattern, or customize your starting chain to reach from the center of your left breast to the center of your right. Make sure that this is an odd number of chains. For reference, I made 39 chains for my foundation. This foundation serves as the beginning for our V-neck, and we will create the shape by making increases in that center stitch. A quick tip, you can use a safety pin or stitch marker to mark your center stitch so you know exactly where to place your first increase. Once our foundation chain is made, we can chain an additional 4, which will count as a double crochet plus a chain 1. Then we'll double crochet into the 7th chain from our hook. This will create a little eyelet at the beginning of our work. Next, we're just going to begin working some double crochets. So I'm going to go into my foundation chain and just work up a double crochet. And I'm going to keep doing that until I reach my center stitch. The hooked pattern will tell you which stitch is your center stitch, but honestly, it's a really great idea to just have that stitch marker in there so you know exactly when to place your first increase. When you reach your center stitch, we're going to make an increase into that center stitch. So to do that, we're going to chain 2 into that center chain space. Then we'll chain 1. And then we're going to place another 2 double crochets into that same stitch. We have just made our increase. Our total stitch count has increased by 4, with 2 stitches added to either side of that center chain space. Now we can continue placing double crochets across our foundation chain until we have 2 chains left. Once you've reached these final 2 chains, chain 1, skip a stitch, and then double crochet into that final stitch. We've just created another eyelet at the end of the row to match the one that we made at the beginning. This concludes step 1 of the pattern. Already we can see that our V neckline is starting to take shape. Make sure that you have the same number of stitches on either side of the center chain space to make sure that everything stays even and symmetrical. We're moving on to step 2 of the pattern, where we will begin widening our front panel. Begin your row by chaining 4. Remember, this counts as a double crochet plus a chain 1. We're going to skip 1 stitch and then double crochet into the next stitch. As you can see, we're always skipping that chain space from the previous row, and that's what creates those really pretty eyelets on the side. Next, we're going to continue double crocheting in each stitch all the way across until we reach the center chain space from our previous row. Now we're just going to go on ahead and create another increase in that center chain space, just like we did in the last row. So what we're going to do is make 2 double crochets. That's the first one, and then the second one. We'll chain 1, and then make 2 more double crochets into that chain space. So once again, this has added 4 stitches to our stitch count, and 2 extra stitches on either side of that center chain space. And as you can see, each center chain space is aligned with the one from the previous row, and that's how you know that you're placing it correctly. Now we can go ahead with placing a double crochet into each stitch all the way across, just like we were doing prior to the center chain space. We'll keep working double crochets all the way across until we reach the chain space at the end of the project, so you'll only have 2 stitches left. So we'll chain 1, skip that chain space, and then we're going to double crochet into that final stitch of our row. And this will create an eyelet that matches the one that we made at the beginning of the row. So your rows will always start and end with an eyelet, and you'll have your center chain space increase at the center of your work. We'll repeat step 2 twice more for a total of 4 rows. So as you can see here, we have 4 rows in color A, which means it's going to be time to switch over to color B. So I'm nearing the end of my 4th row, so it's going to be time to change colors. You can just fasten off in color A and rejoin in color B at the beginning of the next row if you want to make things easier, but I prefer to have less ends to weave in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to work that last double crochet, but I'm not going to pull all the way through yet. So I'll have 2 loops on my hook. Then I'm going to take color B, which is Solaire for me, and I'm going to make a slip knot. I'm going to put that slip knot onto my hook, and then I'm going to pull that slip knot through my 2 loops of that double crochet. So now your working loop should be in the color of your contrasting color or color B. Make sure you carry your non-working strand of yarn up into your next row by twisting it into your working strand. This way you won't have floats or strands sticking out the sides of your panel when you're all done. So now we're proceeding on to step 3. We're going to do our color changing row. So to do this, we'll start our row with the same chain 4. This still counts as a double crochet plus a chain 1. We're going to skip our next stitch, so we're going to skip over that chain space just like we've been doing. But now we're going to make a front post double crochet into that next stitch rather than a regular double crochet. So we still have that eyelet, but now we've done a front post double crochet. Now we're going to make a double crochet into the next stitch, followed by a front post double crochet into the stitch after that. We're going to keep alternating between placing a double crochet into one stitch and then a front post double crochet into the following stitch until we've reached our center chain space. Last stitch worked before reaching the center chain space should be a front post double crochet. Once we've reached our center chain space, we can make our increase the exact same way that we've been doing in our previous rows. So you're just going to make your 2 double crochets into that center chain space, chain 1, and then make your second set of 2 double crochets to make that increase. Notice how all of the center chain spaces from all of the consecutive rows all stack perfectly in line with one another. This is super important. Next, we're going to front post double crochet into our next stitch, and then double crochet into the stitch following afterwards. And we're going to continue repeating this alternating procedure between the front post double crochets and regular double crochets until we reach our chain space at the end of the row. You should end on a front post double crochet. Next, we're going to make our eyelet at the end of the row, just like our previous rows. So we're going to chain 1, skip 1 stitch, and then we're going to double crochet into that final stitch. So as you can see, we have all of our eyelets lined up nicely at the end of the row. They match the ones that we've done at the beginning of the row. And we have completed step 3 of the pattern where we change our colors. These post stitches not only add some texture, but they create a super cool contrast stitching effect between the 2 colors. Next, we're going to be repeating step 2 of the pattern. So we're going to begin by chaining 4, skipping a stitch, and double crocheting into the next stitch to create our first eyelet. Then we're going to double crochet all the way across until reaching our center chain space, just like before. We're going to make our increase in our center chain space just like we did previously in step 2 and step 3. So we have our 2 double crochets, chain 1, and 2 double crochets into that center chain space. followed by double crocheting into each stitch all the way across until you reach that final chain space at the end of your row. At which point we will chain one, skip a stitch, and then place our last double crochet of the row into that final double crochet. Now, we don't need to do a color change this round, but we do need to move our non-working yarn up, so be sure to twist it around your working yarn so that we can bring it up towards our work without creating any unwanted floats. You're going to complete step 2 of the pattern twice more, so you'll have 1 row of step 3 and then 3 rows of step 2 for a total of 4 rows in color B. So once you have your 4 rows of color B worked, now we can move back to transitioning into color A for our 3rd stripe. So when we're working our last double crochet of row 4, we're going to carry our yarn upwards by twisting our non-working yarn around our working yarn, and we're going to make our double crochet, but don't finish it all the way through. We're going to switch over to color A and yarn over and pull through those last 2 loops. So now we'll be working in our color A yarn after transitioning from color B. So now we can do our twisting to pull our non-working yarn up through our working yarn. And again, this prevents any yarn floats or hanging bits off of our top. And now we can go ahead with repeating step 3 of the pattern. So we're going to make our chain 4, skip a stitch, and then we're going to front post double crochet into that next stitch. And now we're just going to alternate between regular double crochets and front post double crochets until we reach our center chain space. So you should know what's coming up next. We're going to make an increase into that center chain space by making 2 double crochets, chaining 1, and then placing another 2 double crochets into that same center chain space. Then we're just going to work the rest of the top, just like pattern 3 instructs, alternating front post double crochets and double crochets, and then creating our eyelet at the very end of the row. Once step 3 has been completed in color A, we just have to work 3 more rows of step 2 to complete this section of the pattern. Remember at the end of your 4th row to do a color change on your very last stitch so that you're ready to work in your 2nd color for the next striped section. You can keep repeating 1 row of step 3 followed by 3 rows of step 2 until your piece measures half of your chest circumference across the widest part of the piece, so straight across from the first to last stitches of your current row. I'm going to stop here after 12 rows or 3 stripes. With that, we're all done of part 2 of our Sugar Beach crochet along. I hope you had fun working up the neckline of your tank top. Next week, we'll work on adding extra length. See you then, and happy crocheting!